Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every believer's life when you look around and wonder, Lord, why is nothing working out? You send applications, you attend interviews, you try every possible door, but they all seem to close. And in that silence, God whispers. He says, my child, stop searching. I am preparing something greater for you. You see, faith is not about chasing opportunities. It's about trusting divine timing. Sometimes when God hides a door, it's because he's building a palace. So today, I want you to let go of the frustration and open your heart to God's bigger plan. Stop chasing jobs. Start trusting God's timing. Many people live their lives moving from one opportunity to another, desperately trying to make things work. They send countless applications, go through interviews and wait for calls that never seem to come. The disappointment grows each time a door closes, and soon they start to wonder if they are somehow not good enough. But what if the problem is not rejection? What if it is redirection? What if God is not punishing you by withholding the job you want, but protecting you from something that is not meant for you? When we chase after jobs, we often act out of fear rather than faith. We think if we do not move fast enough, someone else will take what was meant for us. We think if we do not apply everywhere, we might miss our chance. But faith teaches us something deeper, that no one can take what God has already written with your name on it. When you trust his timing, you stop moving in panic and start walking in peace. You understand that the delay is not a waste of time, it is part of preparation. God works in seasons, and sometimes he allows silence because he is shaping your spirit before showing you your assignment. Chasing jobs can make you anxious, but trusting God builds patience. The world teaches us that success is in constant movement, but heaven teaches us that success is in alignment. When you are aligned with God's will, even standing still can be progress. Because while you are waiting, he is working, opening doors that no man can shut and closing doors that no man can open. Your faith becomes your foundation, not your array sommet. Sometimes the waiting season is where God reveals your true calling. You may think you need a certain job to feel complete, but God may be using this period to prepare you for something beyond employment, maybe a purpose, a mission, or a vision that will impact others. Many great men and women of faith were called during times of uncertainty. They had to stop striving long enough to hear the whisper of God saying, "Be still and know that I am God." In that stillness, he shapes character, builds resilience, and strengthens faith. When you chase jobs, you're focused on getting what you want. When you trust God's timing, your focus shifts to becoming who he wants you to be. This transformation changes everything. You begin to understand that not every opportunity is a blessing. Some are distractions disguised as success. When God closes a door, it is because he sees what you cannot touch. He knows the hidden weight behind the glamour of certain opportunities. He knows what could harm your peace or delay your destiny. So instead of asking, "Why not me?" start saying, "Lord, I trust you even when I don't understand." Trusting God's timing doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can while allowing him to handle what you cannot. It's about preparing your heart, sharpening your skills, and maintaining faith while refusing to force what isn't meant to be. The key is surrender. True faith is not shown by how hard you chase, but by how deeply you trust. There is a beauty in resting in God's plan. When you finally stop chasing and start trusting, a new peace takes over. You no longer compare your journey to others or feel left behind when someone else succeeds. You realize that everyone has their own appointed time, and yours will come when God knows you're ready. The waiting room becomes a place of worship rather than worry. You start to thank God for the delays because you sense he is aligning something bigger than your imagination. Every no becomes a hidden not yet, and every closed door becomes proof that God's protection is working. Faith transforms disappointment into patience and waiting into preparation. The moment you release control, you give God space to perform miracles that human effort could never achieve. The job you once thought was perfect may no longer even interest you when you finally see what God had been preparing behind the scenes. Trusting his timing also builds humility. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by your employment status, but by your identity as a child of God. You don't need a title to have purpose. and you don't need a position to walk in destiny. When your confidence comes from heaven, no rejection on earth can shake you. You begin to carry quiet strength, the kind that doesn't come from achievements, but from faith anchored in divine timing. As you walk through seasons of uncertainty, remember that God's plans never rush. They unfold perfectly at the right time, in the right way, with the right purpose. He sees the end from the beginning, and every delay is carefully woven into your destiny. What feels like a pause is often God setting the stage for something far greater than you could design. So stop chasing jobs. Stop living in anxiety, thinking that your worth depends on human approval or a company's decision. Instead, rest in the assurance that God's timing is flawless. While you're worrying about what's next, He's already written your story. And when the time is right, no one will be able to stop what He has prepared for you. Delays are divine preparations, not denials. There are moments in life when you feel like everything is standing still. You pray, you work hard, you plan carefully, yet nothing seems to move. Every door you knock on stays shut, and every opportunity you chase slips away. It feels like life has paused while the world keeps moving forward without you. But in the eyes of God, there is no such thing as delay, only divine timing. What you see as a pause is often God preparing something greater than you can understand in the present moment. He uses these seasons of waiting not to deny your dreams, but to shape you into the person who can handle them when they come. When God delays, it is not because He has forgotten you. It is because He is working on things beyond your sight. Sometimes He must prepare the environment before placing you in it. Other times, He must prepare you before placing you into the environment. If He gave you everything you asked for right away, you might not be ready to sustain it. Growth takes time, and God's process is never rushed. He sees the beginning and the end, and He knows exactly when the two should meet. In our impatience, we often misinterpret silence as absence. We start to question if God has heard our prayers or if He even cares. But silence is not neglect, it is strategy. God uses silence to develop your faith, to stretch your endurance, and to teach you to trust without proof. It is easy to believe when everything happens quickly. True faith is built when you must wait without seeing any sign of progress. The waiting season becomes a test of trust, revealing whether you desire the blessing more than the one who gives it. Delays also protect us. Many times, what looks like a missed opportunity is actually divine protection from something that would have harmed us. God sees what we cannot. The intentions of people, the traps of the enemy, the future consequences of choices we might think are right. His delay is His mercy, keeping us from entering places we are not yet ready to face. What you think is rejection may simply be redirection toward a better path. Every detour is part of His design, even when it feels confusing. During divine delays, God refines your heart. He removes pride, impatience, and self-reliance. He replaces them with humility, endurance, and spiritual maturity. You begin to understand that blessings are not just about what you receive, but about who you become while waiting for them. If He gave you the blessing too early, it might become a burden. But when you are fully prepared, that same blessing becomes a tool for His purpose. In the Bible, many of God's chosen people faced delays that shaped their destiny. Joseph waited years in prison before reaching the palace. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading his people. Even Jesus waited 30 years before beginning His ministry. None of these delays were denials. They were seasons of preparation where God developed character before revealing calling. The longer the preparation, the greater the purpose. Sometimes God holds you in a waiting season to break your attachment to your own plans. You may have mapped out your life perfectly, but God's plan always exceeds yours. His ways are higher and His timing is precise. When you surrender your timeline, you make room for His miracles. He doesn't operate on human schedules because He works according to divine purpose. You might be in the middle of the process right now, wondering why nothing seems to move. But what you cannot see is that the foundation is being built beneath the surface. The delay is not meant to destroy your faith. It is meant to strengthen it. It teaches you to walk by trust, not by sight. It reminds you that your destiny is not controlled by speed, but by surrender. Every moment you wait is a moment God uses to align everything perfectly. The right people, The right place, the right time. Closed doors protect you from wrong directions. There are times when life doesn't go the way you planned. You try to move forward, but the path keeps blocking itself. You knock on doors that seem perfect. A new job, a relationship, an opportunity, and they stay closed no matter how hard you try. It's frustrating, even painful, to feel like you're being kept away from what you believe is right for you. But what if those closed doors are not obstacles, but protection? What if God is closing them because He knows what's behind them isn't meant for you? Closed doors are often divine shields, not punishments. When God closes a door, it's because He sees the bigger picture, one that you cannot yet understand. He knows the future you're walking toward, the people you'll meet, and the trials you'll face. Some doors lead to temporary comfort, but long-term regret. Others open too early and expose you to things you're not ready to handle. God, in His wisdom, blocks those paths because He knows they would harm your growth, drain your spirit, or distract you from your true calling. The rejection you feel is often redirection wrapped in mercy. Sometimes we push against closed doors because our hearts are attached to our own expectations. We convince ourselves that this opportunity must be ours, that this is the only way forward. But faith means trusting that if God says no, it's for your protection, not your punishment. He knows what you can't see. The unseen conversations, the hidden motives, the spiritual dangers waiting on the other side. When you force what God has closed, you step outside of His covering. But when you surrender and trust Him, He leads you toward a door open with peace instead of pressure. God's protection doesn't always look like safety. Sometimes it looks like disappointment. You may lose something you wanted deeply, and it may hurt. But one day when you look back, you realize that the loss saved you. You realize that God's no kept you from walking into something that would have broken you. What felt like failure was actually favor. You weren't being blocked. You were being redirected towards something higher, something more in line with your purpose. There are seasons where God allows every door to close, not because He wants you to stop, but because He wants you to pause. He wants to shift your direction, renew your focus, and prepare you for something greater. During that pause, He teaches you patience and discernment. He helps you recognize which doors are meant for you and which ones are traps in disguise. You start to understand that not every opportunity is from God, and not every open door leads to blessing. The enemy can open doors that look attractive but lead to destruction. That's why discernment matters. When you trust God's guidance, you don't chase what glitters, you wait for what's guided. Closed doors also test your humility. They remind you that you are not in control, that you depend on God's wisdom more than your own understanding. It's easy to trust Him when doors open easily, but true faith is tested when He closes them. The closed doors expose your willingness to surrender. They reveal whether you trust His plan or just want His approval for yours. When you accept His no with peace, you show that your faith is anchored in trust, not convenience. Many people in Scripture faced closed doors before reaching their destiny. Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, yet that painful detour led him to the palace. Paul was stopped from preaching in certain regions, only to be led where the gospel needed him most. Even Jesus experienced rejection in His hometown before His ministry expanded across nations. Every closed door in their lives was protection, keeping them aligned with divine direction. The closed doors you face are not random. They are intentional acts of love. God closes them to guide you towards something that aligns with your purpose, something that will not just please you but fulfill you. The peace you find after surrendering is the confirmation that you are still walking the right path, even when it doesn't look like it. God's plan is greater than your current position. Many times, people get so focused on where they are that they forget it's not where they're meant to stay. They look at their current job, their circumstances, or their surroundings, and start to believe that this is all life has to offer. But God's plan for your life is far greater than the position you hold today. What you see as an ordinary moment may actually be a divine setup for something extraordinary. God never wastes a season. Every step, every struggle, and every success is part of a bigger story that He is writing for you. Your current position might be small, but it's sacred. It's where God is preparing you, testing your faith and building your character. Before promotion comes preparation, and before breakthrough comes refinement. You may not see the full picture now, but God does. He is using the very place you're in, the challenges, the routines, the people, to equip you for the next stage of your calling. What feels like a limitation could be a lesson. What feels like delay could be development. Every assignment, no matter how small, has purpose when it's in God's hands. Sometimes we confuse purpose with position. We think the title, salary, or recognition defines our worth. But purpose isn't tied to status, it's tied to calling. God's plan doesn't depend on your rank in the world. It depends on your obedience to His voice. You can be in a low position and still have a high calling. You can be unseen by people and still chosen by God. When you understand this truth, you stop chasing validation from others and start finding fulfillment in faithfulness. The position you have now is not the destination, it's the foundation. There are moments when it feels like you've outgrown where you are, but the doors to the next level haven't opened yet. That's when God is teaching you endurance. He's watching how you handle the waiting. Do you stay faithful or do you become frustrated? Do you serve with excellence even when no one notices? God promotes those who remain faithful in the unseen places. David was anointed king while still tending sheep. Joseph was called to lead a nation while serving in a prison. Their positions didn't define them. Their purpose did. You might be in a place that feels beneath your potential, but God sees beyond the surface. He knows how to turn humble beginnings into powerful testimonies. What seems insignificant now is shaping you for influence later. God's plan stretches beyond what you can imagine, and sometimes He keeps you hidden until the right moment of unveiling. When that moment comes, everything you've learned in the quiet seasons will become the strength you need for the greater purpose ahead. Faith begins where human effort ends. There comes a point in every journey where your strength, your plans, and your strategies reach their limit. You've done everything you know how to do. You've worked, prayed, planned, and prepared, yet nothing seems to move forward. That moment, the one where your own ability fails, is where faith begins. Faith steps in when effort runs out. It is the bridge between your limitation and God's limitless power. Human effort can take you far, but only faith can take you beyond. When everything is under your control, faith is not required. But when doors close, when paths disappear, when the things you counted on stop working, that's when you are invited to trust in something greater than yourself. Faith doesn't mean ignoring effort. It means recognizing that your effort alone is not the source of your breakthrough. It is a partnership between your obedience and God's sovereignty. You plant the seed, but He makes it grow. You move in faith, and He moves in power. People often try to rely on their own wisdom and timing. They believe if they just work harder, plan smarter, or push longer, they can make things happen. But human strength is temporary. It eventually reaches a wall. God allows those walls to appear so that you can finally see that you were never meant to do it alone. It's in those moments of exhaustion that faith is born. The kind of faith that doesn't depend on results, but on relationship. It's where you learn that trust is stronger than control, and surrender is not weakness, but strength. Faith begins when logic ends. It believes when there is no evidence, hopes when there is no sign, and stands firm when circumstances say otherwise. It doesn't wait for proof to believe. It believes until proof appears. This kind of faith doesn't make sense to the world, but it's the foundation of every miracle. When you stop relying solely on your own ability, you create space for God to demonstrate His power. What you cannot achieve by human means, He can accomplish in a single moment. The purpose of faith is not just to get you what you want, but to align you with what God wants for you. It changes your perspective from striving to trusting. Instead of asking, how can I make this happen? You begin to ask, Lord, what are you teaching me here? That shift transforms your heart. It takes your focus away from performance and places it on divine partnership. You start to understand that your job is obedience, not outcome. Faith doesn't ignore effort, it completes it. It reminds you that results are not your responsibility. They belong to God. You do your part, and then you rest in His promise. When your hands have done all they can, Your heart must believe that He will do what you cannot. What you're waiting for, God is already working on. There are moments when waiting feels endless. You pray for answers, hope for change, and look for signs, yet everything seems still. But unseen to your eyes, God is already moving. While you wait, He works. He arranges circumstances, prepares hearts, and aligns timing so that everything unfolds in perfect order. Waiting is not inactivity in heaven's view. It is divine coordination. God is setting the stage for something far greater than your limited understanding can perceive. When you feel like nothing is happening, that is often when God is doing the most. Just because you can't see movement doesn't mean there isn't progress. A seed planted underground doesn't show signs of life immediately, but deep beneath the soil, roots are forming, strength is building, and the foundation for growth is being laid. In the same way, God works beneath the surface of your life. He is shaping you, refining you, and preparing the way for the promise He has spoken over you. The waiting season often tests your patience and faith. You may wonder why God is taking so long, or if He even remembers what He promised. But time is never wasted with God. Every second has purpose, every delay has meaning. He works with precision, not haste. He doesn't rush because He knows that premature blessings can become heavy burdens. He allows time to mature you so that when the blessing arrives, you can sustain it with wisdom and gratitude. Sometimes, while you're waiting for God to change your situation, He's using the situation to change you. He's teaching you trust, humility, and endurance. You may think you're waiting for the answer, but often you are the one being prepared to receive it. The waiting is not punishment, it is preparation. God's work in your heart is just as important as His work in your circumstances. He is aligning your desires with His will so that when the moment comes, your spirit and His plan move in harmony. When you realize God is working even in silence, waiting becomes easier to bear. You stop focusing on what you lack and start trusting in what He's doing behind the scenes. The frustration of delay turns into quiet confidence because you know that heaven never sleeps. God is not distant, He is deliberate. Every connection, every opportunity, every closed and open door is being arranged with divine accuracy. It's in the waiting that faith deepens. You learn to believe without seeing, to hope without proof, and to rest without answers. The unseen work of God is often the most powerful because it builds your trust, molds your heart, and prepares your soul for fulfillment. You may not see how everything will come together, but God is already orchestrating the details, turning what seems uncertain into something beautifully complete. Before you go, remember this: your waiting is not wasted, your silence is not empty, and your faith is not forgotten. God is still working, even in the places you cannot see. The doors that didn't open, the delays you couldn't understand, and the moments you almost gave up, all of them are part of His greater plan. If this message spoke to your heart today, if it reminded you to trust again, to believe again, and to wait with faith, then don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone who needs hope. Click that like button to help spread this word of encouragement. Subscribe so you don't miss the next message that might speak directly into your situation. And in the comments below, write the words, "I trust God's timing." Let this be your declaration of faith today. Because the moment you start trusting His timing more than your own, peace begins to fill your heart. Thank you for watching, and may your faith remain stronger than your fear. Always.